my top 5 list of Heisman candidates. And let's get straight to that one. We're going to go 1 through 5 on who I think is most likely to win the Heisman Trophy before we've even played a snap of regular season football. And at number 1, I got Caleb Williams. Okay. He is the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. He did this despite losing the Pac-12 championship and losing to Utah twice, because it feels like there is no situation for which Caleb Williams cannot find an answer. He is the most athletic quarterback in the sport today. The things that he's been able to do, even on one leg, are tremendous. And that's one of the reasons why we're thinking about him. We're also thinking about him because as dynamic and fun as he is, maybe the most dynamic and fun player at USC since Reggie Bush, and I mean that, it's mostly about the stats that are, for me, are just ridiculous. We're talking about a guy that threw for 4,500, right? Had more than 50 TDs, can do anything he wants with a football. He's the best player in college football. But Heisman voters are petty. You'll know this. I'm not a big fan of the Heisman. And it's not because I don't like the Heisman players. Like the guys that win the trophies, generally like them. The way in which we go about picking the guys that win the trophy, I think that's antiquated, outdated, and we should change it because we haven't had a repeat winner since 1974 and 1975, Ohio State running back Archie Griffin. It's become a thing that it's not that Archie Griffin won the Heisman. It's that he's the guy that won it twice. Okay? One of the things that the Heisman voters have stuck to is we don't like it when freshmen are up for the award. They broke that for Johnny Manziel. They probably feel sort of gun shy about it. Another thing is this thing about taking Heisman trophies back. I still don't get that one. And I've been loud about Reggie getting his Heisman back for some time. But more than that, if Caleb Williams does this year what he did last year, would he win the Heisman Trophy? I mean, it's an honest question here. And I put it out on the Twitters this way. If Kyle McCord, to use a big name quarterback that's in a quarterback derby right now, and a guy that most people have not seen play football. I watched him play Akron, but I'm me, right? If he did what Caleb Williams did last year, would he win the Heisman Trophy? And it's up for debate, right? He's got that Ohio State thing going for him, which we know is powerful. But is it about what kind of a player you are, or is it the kind of stats you put up? I think Caleb Williams is really fun to watch play football, and his attitude about himself and about how people consume him makes him even more fun, which gets me back to this. The Heisman Trophy is as much about talent and stats as it is attitude. Lincoln Riley has done a good job of keeping guys that have personalities on a football field playing their best football. I'm thinking about Baker Mayfield, right? Who, no matter what you think about Baker, you think something about Baker. Kyler Murray's a better athlete than Caleb Williams, but my God, is Caleb Williams a much more fun person to hear talk, to see play football, and really to see how he goes about in the games. Like, I don't think Kyler Murray's going to put the John Cena move on his fingernails next to Utah. It's just not going to, that's not his get down. He's a baseball player. Baseball players, for the most part, are not the most talkative men in the world. They don't have a whole hell of a lot to say. It's even frowned upon in the sport. It's one of the reasons why I probably always stuck out as a sore thumb in baseball, because I always wanted to talk my noise, especially behind the plate. Blue would tell me, hey, catch, pipe down. Yes, sir. Because I want balls and strikes. I think that if Caleb Williams puts up 5,060, a la Joe Burrow, he's going to be the first player since Archie Griffin to win the Heisman Trophy. And then we're talking about, is he the best college football player, or win the Heisman Trophy twice? And then we're going to be talking about, is he the best college football player of all time? That's still Cam Newton, because no matter how good Caleb Williams is going to be, A, they both got Heismans, and B, Cam Newton did this with like one other NFL player on the roster at Auburn, and that dude played defense. Okay. Superman is originally that dude in Auburn, Alabama. Caving for Caleb is a thing that I need to start saying. Like, since Jim Nagy put it in my brain, we need to come up with some way of tanking for Tua, who's going to want the number 1 pick in 2024, which we know is going to be Caleb Williams. Calling it caving for Caleb, put the hashtag in there. I think it rhymes. It's cool. Lincoln Riley could also be the third head coach to have 4 Heisman winners as a head coach. The other ones are Frank Leahy at Notre Dame and Nick Saban, which is interesting because I don't think there was a Heisman winner before Nick Saban got to Alabama, which is kind of wild. And he had a wide receiver win that damn thing, which leads me to number 2 on the list, Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. That dude is capable of doing for Ohio State what Devontae Smith did for Alabama. That's wild, because Devontae Smith was an assassin. Slim Reaper. The dude that took Georgia's national championship away from it in double OT. From a quarterback came off the bench because he's that man. The dude that won the Heisman even though Jalen Waddle was a better player because Jalen Waddle got hurt. The dude who answered the bell. The dude that Charles Kelly said, hey, look, Devontae Smith could have played corner for us. We just didn't need him. That's who Marvin Harrison Jr. is. And when you're looking at his ability, this catch he's making right here against Indiana, we got the 1 foot in bounds. I asked him about it. I said, hey, did you think you were going to get that foot in? Said, yeah, I knew that I got that foot in. Just kind of matter of factly. He's not gregarious, right? He's not loud and out there. He goes about his business. A lot of things that impressed me about Marvin Harrison Jr., but none more than his work ethic, because it's one thing to be as talented as he is and to have the pedigree that he does. His father is a college football Hall of Fame nominee, I think, and I know he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but he also wore a blue tie to Big Ten Media Days, for which he got a lot of side eye. And then come to find out the man was wearing a blue tie and a white shirt and a gray suit to honor his father as he walked into Lucas Oil Stadium, the place his father made famous, playing for the Indianapolis Colts. There's layers to this dude. There are levels here. I love this because that's the only way you can get away with wearing a blue tie and be an Ohio State receiver. Played it perfectly. It's also a dude that asked his coaches at St. Joe's Prep, hey, coach, when we do our drills for getting feet in bounds, can we do 2? Why? Because I'm training to be a pro. And in the pros, you got to get 2 feet in bounds. We play high school football, we play college football, but I'm preparing to be a pro. Goodness me. And he changed the drill. That's the kind of moxie and the kind of attitude that Marvin Harrison Jr. could inspire in his coaches. They changed up the drill for him. Other way of looking at this, Ryan Day told a story that I really love. So going into a week of game prep, it is one thing for a player to catch balls off the jugs machine, right? A lot of guys do it. A lot of guys do it wrongly. There's all sorts of ways to do it wrongly, which is standing in front of the jug machine and catching balls when you should be probably running routes and catching balls. That's what Marvin Harrison Jr. was doing. He's running routes, catching balls, but he was doing it as a part of their walkthrough for that week's game preparation. Again, levels to this. He's not just out there doing things. He's out there working with purpose. And it's the reason why could be the first Biletnikoff Award winner since Terry Glenn at Ohio State, which is like 1995. And I think he could win a Heisman Trophy if Kyle McCord is back there throwing passes and they got that thing going on from St. Joe's Prep. They had that thing going on where it is, we're drift compatible. They're in the same Jaeger making it happen. Call Ohio State Gypsy Danger. Number 3 on the list for me, Blake Corum. All right. There's layers to this too. Blake Corum should have been a finalist for the Heisman Trophy last year. It's a man who played in 11 games and 2 snaps or 2 carries for Michigan against Ohio State and still didn't manage to make that thing, right? I'm looking at this and I'm going, how does a guy who rushed 247 times, 1,463 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, 18 TDs, 2 shy of tying the school record set by the dude that came before him, miss making the Heisman Trophy ceremony? And it's really because that game against Ohio State means so much. Like, I think that Aiden Hutchinson made the Heisman ceremony off of what he did against Ohio State, because I don't believe that even his draft stock was that high until he featured in that game. That's how many people watched that game. That's why that game is the game of the year. That's why it's always been a thing that I'm asked to talk about since I got this job working at Fox, man. It's the game. It's the one that everybody cares about. I think if he's healthy and he plays through that game, it's not just that he's in the Heisman finalist. I think he actually could win the damn thing. Like, I'm looking at that. I'm going, if Blake Corum won a Big Ten championship, would he have beaten Caleb Williams for the Heisman Trophy? I think there's a really good argument for this. You know why? Because Kyler Murray won the Heisman Trophy that probably should have gone to Tua Tagovailoa for the same reason. He featured in the Big 12 championship game in a win. It matters. There's also this really interesting point that is raised to me. So I was asked, given what Donovan Edwards had done, not just last year, but the year before, do you really expect Blake Corum to get as many carries this year as he did last year? I said, absolutely. You know how I know this? Because Blake Corum was every bit the home run hitter that Donovan Edwards is when he was behind Hassan Haskins in 2021. Hassan Haskins 2021 run the ball 270 times. for 1,327 yards, 4.9 yards per clip, 20 TDs. Corum ran the ball 144 times, 952 yards, averaging better, 6.6 yards per carry. 2022, Corum is now in the position that Haskins is in. Again, 247, 1463, 18 TDs. Edwards, basically the same stats that Corum had in 2021. 140 rushes for 991 yards, 7 yards per carry. It's also not just that I expect Jim Harbaugh to feed a guy who came back when he didn't have to come back. And Jim Harbaugh told me right here on the #1 college football show, A, congratulations on having the #1 college football show, and B, that he was excited and wowed when Blake Corum chose to come back after injuring himself to finish what he started, because that's why he's here. He's here to get not Michigan to the Big Ten championship game and win. He's done that. Not to get them to the college football playoff. He's done that. To win a national championship, which nobody at Michigan has done in 25 years, 26 going into 2023. I think that's all worth considering. It's also worth considering that behind Donovan Edwards, you're asking a lot about guys like CJ Stokes. Like, I understand that you got a true freshman that popped during the spring game, but it's also spring. You don't have a lot of depth at that position. It behooves you to ride Blake Corum like Zorro does his horse behind a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line last year and the year before, and 7 dudes in the same draft class that could get drafted at the same time. They are going to be good running the football at Michigan. I think Blake Corum is going to do more than rush for 1,400 yards. You dig? Okay. Number 4 on the list for me, University of North Carolina quarterback Drake Maye. It took me a while to get around to Drake Maye, and I've actually kind of talked about this for some time, but then I looked at what he has done since he's been at North Carolina, and I can't ignore this. You can't ignore this. We're talking about this dude actually rivaling Caleb Williams for the #1 pick in the 2024 draft, because last year he had 4,321 yards passing, 38 pass TDs, 7 picks. Then he added 698 rush yards with 7 rushing TDs. Now, this is the part that I want you to remember and listen for. He became the 6th quarterback since 2010 to throw for 4,000 yards, pass 35 TDs, rush for 650 yards, and rush for 7 TDs. The other quarterbacks to do that since 2010, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Marcus Mariota, Johnny Manziel, and RG3. Read another way. That is Heisman winner, national champ, Heisman winner, Heisman winner, Heisman winner. Read another way. Heisman winner, Deshaun Watson, Heisman winner, Heisman winner, Heisman winner. Like, the stats that he put out last year are ridiculous. And if Clint Brewster doesn't fix what ain't broke it, Drake Maye's the dude. I expect that dude to win ACC Player of the Year, provided he can do last year what he did, do this year what he did last year. And then number 5 on the list, I got Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. For me, it's that he is the best quarterback that the Texas Longhorns have had since Colt McCoy. And he's got the best set of playmakers around him that any UT quarterback has had since 2009, when Colt McCoy led Texas to the national title game. It's not just that he's got A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Isaiah Neighbor. It's also that he's got Jatavion Sanders. It's also that running back room is loaded. A dude that you're going to hear me talk about, and Texas fan, you're probably getting tired of hearing me talk about, is C.J. Baxter. That dude is a freshman that is going to light people up. And there are 3 other guys like him in that backfield. Kelvin Banks proved that he could play as a true freshman last year. He was good, guys. And that guy's back. You have tools here if you're Quinn Ewers. And oh, by the way, he was once the #1 overall recruit in his recruiting class. And he is one of just a handful, I believe there's 6 guys, to get a 1.00 rating according to 247 Sports Composite. He's talented. He's chiseled up. He's a year older. Basically played a freshman year that was off and on. And if he doesn't get injured against Alabama, they beat Alabama before Tennessee does. You watch the game. I watch the game. It's all there for him to end up right there, leading Texas to a Big 12 championship, possibly a college football playoff berth. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.